Are in old Circuit City buildings. The hope is they'll stimulate the economy.
250,000 people's jobs were affected.
Well, Circuit City is the latest national retailer to announce its downsizing.
Circuit City was once a powerhouse in electronics retail, dominating the industry with innovation and ambition. But behind its rapid rise lies a story of missed opportunities and poor decisions, leading to the ultimate collapse. How did it all go wrong for this retail giant? Join us as we look at the dark truth behind the fall of Circuit City, or Circuit City history.
Now at Circuit City, save on feature-packed VCRs, refrigerators, and more.
Circuit City got its start way back in 1949 as the Ward's Company. It was a modest little retailer focused mainly on selling televisions and appliances. But under the leadership of Samuel Wurtzel, who was the president at the time, things started to shift.
Started the Ward's Company, and by the way, I think you ought to know where the name came from.
Wurtzel had big dreams for the company, and he knew they needed to innovate to make their mark. So in 1975, they tried something new and launched a showroom called Ward's Loading Dock. And guess what? People loved it. This showroom gave customers a full-on warehouse experience. They could come in, browse huge inventory, and enjoy a shopping experience that felt a little different from the typical electronics store. This new format allowed them to stock more products and offer a wider variety, which kept customers coming back. It was a winning formula, and the company was on the move. Fast forward to 1984, and the Ward's Company rebranded itself as Circuit City Stores Incorporated. This wasn't just a name change. It marked a major shift in strategy and identity. Circuit City was now positioning itself as a leader in electronics retail, and the timing couldn't have been better. That same year, they were listed on the New York Stock Exchange, which gave them the capital they needed to expand even further.
Circuit City, our sales counselors will let you play with lots of different video cameras and accessories.
By the late 1980s, Circuit City was a major player in the retail game. They opened up massive superstores all across the U.S. These stores were enormous, typically ranging from 32,000 to 35,000 square feet, and they were packed with all kinds of electronics, televisions, stereos, computers, you name it. At one point, they had around 3,200 different products in their stores. Customers didn't just visit to shop. They came to browse, compare, and enjoy a massive selection of the latest tech. One of the keys to Circuit City's early success was its new approach to store formats. They were one of the first to popularize the big box electronics retail model, which allowed customers to explore freely without pushy sales staff hovering over them. This made the shopping experience more enjoyable. And it wasn't just about the layout. Circuit City also focused on customer service, offering a commission-based pay structure for their sales team. This meant that employees were motivated to provide great service as their earnings were tied directly to their performance. The result? Customers left happy, and the company built a reputation for quality service and expertise in the electronics market. By the 1990s, Circuit City had become one of the biggest names in electronics, with over 1,500 stores and nearly 46,000 employees. It seemed like the company was unstoppable, and their growth was the talk of the retail world. They were everywhere, providing customers with all their electronic needs in one convenient place. So, how did things take such a dramatic turn? Which wrong steps led to Circuit City's eventual decline?
Circuit City's professional counselors give you the right advice. We guarantee satisfaction. You have 30 days to return your purchase for a full refund for any reason.
It all started with a lot of missed opportunities. Initially, in the 80s and early 90s, Circuit City was riding high, and it was one of the biggest names in electronics retail. One can say that the future looked bright. But here's where the cracks started to form. Those missed opportunities and some major mistakes came back to haunt them. In 1988, Circuit City had a golden opportunity handed to them on a silver platter. Best Buy, which was still a relatively small competitor at the time, approached Circuit City with an offer. They could have bought Best Buy for just $30 million. It seemed like a no-brainer, right? Well, Circuit City's CEO at the time, Richard Sharp, didn't think so. He believed Circuit City could easily outmaneuver Best Buy without buying them out. This turned out to be a huge mistake.
Presenting sheer madness, Circuit City's Midnight Madness Christmas sale. Friday only till midnight. Every Circuit City will go raving mad.
Best Buy, as we all know, went on to become one of Circuit City's toughest competitors. While Circuit City stuck to its traditional retail strategies, Best Buy focused on innovation and grew rapidly. It didn't take long for Best Buy to become a major player in the electronics industry, and Circuit City's decision to pass up that deal is often seen as one of the first big missteps. But that wasn't the only mistake. The 1990s saw a massive shift in how people shopped, especially with the rise of online shopping. Companies like Amazon were popping up, and consumers were getting more and more comfortable with buying products online. What about Circuit City? Well, let's just say they were slow to catch on. They didn't launch their online store until much later, and by the time they did, their competitors had already built loyal online customer bases.
Push it, click it, press it, flick it, tune it in, turn it on. This is what you watch it on. Any way you work it, integrate your circuit at the city. Circuit City.
This failure to embrace e-commerce was a big deal. While Best Buy and Amazon were investing heavily in their online presence, Circuit City was still relying on its brick-and-mortar stores. They just didn't realize how fast the retail environment was changing. By the time they got serious about e-commerce, it was too late. Customers had already moved on. And if you think that's enough to cause their downfall, wait until you hear about another missed opportunity. Another big blunder happened in 2000 when Circuit City decided to stop selling large appliances. At the time, they were the second largest appliance retailer in the country. You might wonder why they'd give up such a lucrative market. The reality was that the executives focused on smaller electronics, considering that it would be more profitable and reduce the cost of storing and delivering large appliances. But this decision ended up being disastrous. Why? Because it alienated a huge part of their customer base, and they also missed out on the housing boom in the mid-2000s. As new homes were being built, the demand for large appliances soared. Circuit City could have capitalized on this, but instead, they were left watching their competitors rake in the profits.
At Circuit City, we get higher customer satisfaction ratings than any other specialty home electronics and appliance chain.
Welcome to Circuit City, where service is state-of-the-art.
It didn't help that Circuit City also started having major leadership issues during this time. There was constant turnover at the executive level, which led to confusion and instability. Each new leader had a different strategy, and the company was all over the place without a clear direction. As you can see, Circuit City was making some big mistakes at a time when they should have been innovating and adapting. They were losing ground to their competitors, and the next few years would only get tougher, but we're just getting started. Stay tuned to learn how one major retailer's cost-cutting and leadership chaos led to this giant company's shocking downfall.
Matt, you gotta handle it.
If you buy something at Circuit City, then see it advertised for less, just come back. Our low price guarantee means you'll get the difference.
As you can see, Circuit City was already facing some tough times with missed opportunities and the rise of online shopping. But things were about to get even worse due to some poor leadership decisions and a series of cost-cutting measures that backfired big time. One of the biggest problems Circuit City faced during this time was the constant turnover in leadership. They couldn't keep a stable executive team in place, and it backfired. It led to confusion not just within the company, but for customers as well. No one knew what Circuit City stood for anymore, and that lack of a clear identity started to hurt their brand. Around this time, Circuit City made another critical mistake. In an effort to save money, the company decided to change its sales staff strategy. For years, Circuit City had built a reputation for having knowledgeable, commission-based sales associates. These employees were experts in their products, and customers trusted their advice when making big purchases. It was one of the reasons people shopped at Circuit City in the first place.
At Circuit City, the big names you want are all under one roof, all at unbeatable low prices. Plus, get your choice of 0% interest for 12 months on any computer.
However, in 2003, the company decided to eliminate these commission-based positions and replace them with lower-paid hourly workers. The idea was to cut cost by reducing the amount they were paying in commissions. Sounds like a simple way to save money, right? Wrong. This decision ended up being a disaster. The new hourly employees didn't have the same level of expertise or motivation as the commission-based sales staff. Customers noticed the difference immediately. Instead of getting knowledgeable advice, They were left frustrated by staff who couldn't answer their questions. As you can imagine, customer satisfaction took a major hit, and with competitors like Best Buy offering a better shopping experience, people began to take their business elsewhere.
Felt like I lost my family. I mean, Circuit City was my family. I mean, all these people who are here, we were a team.
The company also stopped investing in its stores. Instead of upgrading and modernizing its locations, Circuit City let them become outdated. Customers were walking into stores that felt old and tired, while competitors like Best Buy and Walmart were creating more modern and inviting spaces. All of these choices combined to create a perfect storm. Circuit City was losing its edge, and customers were flocking to other retailers that offered better service, better prices, and a better shopping experience. Leadership's short-term focus on cost-cutting ended up costing the company big time in the long run. As Circuit City struggled to stay afloat, they were about to face one final blow that would seal their fate. Curious about what that could be? Well, just keep watching.
I'm standing outside of what was once Circuit City's flagship store. It opened 17 years ago, just across the street from the company's West End headquarters.
By now, Circuit City had already missed out on a few big opportunities, and their leadership choices weren't helping matters. However, the world was changing fast, and one major shift that completely passed them by was the rise of e-commerce. As the 2000s rolled in, online shopping started to take over. Amazon, which had begun as a humble online bookstore, was quickly growing into a powerhouse. People were getting more comfortable with the idea of buying electronics and other products online. They enjoyed the convenience of browsing from home, comparing prices with just a click, and having products delivered straight to their door. For many, the days of going to a physical store were becoming less appealing, but Circuit City didn't adapt fast enough. While Amazon and Best Buy were investing heavily in their online platforms, Circuit City stuck to their brick-and-mortar stores for far too long. They didn't launch a real e-commerce platform until it was almost too late, and by then, the competition had already taken over the online space. Shoppers had gotten used to buying from other retailers who had better websites, better deals, and better delivery options. Even when Circuit City finally did get into online shopping, its website was clunky and outdated. Customers found it hard to understand, and the overall experience just didn't match up to the sleek, user-friendly sites of Amazon or Best Buy. This was a huge misstep because by this point, consumers expected smooth, easy online shopping experiences, and Circuit City simply couldn't deliver.
At Circuit City, you'll find a huge selection of the latest TVs. And right now, pay no interest for 18 months on all digital TVs, $6.99 and up.
The company also failed to combine its online and in-store shopping experiences. At the time, many retailers were starting to offer services like buy online and pick up in store, but Circuit City was slow to adopt these kinds of strategies. This left them at a disadvantage. The impact of this was devastating. Circuit City saw its customer base shrink. They had missed the e-commerce wave, and it was becoming harder and harder to catch up. The leadership at Circuit City seemed to underestimate just how big online shopping would become. Instead of being proactive and investing in their digital presence, they stayed stuck in their old ways. This failure to embrace the changing market meant they were constantly playing catch-up with competitors who were miles ahead in the e-commerce game. By the mid-2000s, Circuit City was in serious trouble. The combination of poor leadership, bad decisions, and their late entry into e-commerce was dragging the company down. What happens to the company that is already on life support? Here's how financial crises sank the ship of Circuit City.
Last week, we bought this great new VCR at Circuit City. They guarantee if we find a lower price within 30 days, they'll refund the difference plus 10%. I'm going to find a lower price.
Right, Harold.
By the mid-2000s, Circuit City was already facing serious challenges. Poor decisions, increased competition, and a failure to adapt were weakening the once powerful company. Then came the 2008 financial crisis, which dealt a devastating blow. When the financial crisis hit, people's priorities shifted. Consumers had to focus on essentials like food and housing, leaving electronics at the bottom of their shopping lists. Circuit City, a company that thrived on selling TVs, computers, and gadgets, was hit hard. Fewer people were coming through their doors, and those who did weren't spending much. This rapid drop in sales further crippled the struggling retailer. At the same time, Circuit City had already been relying heavily on credit to keep operations running. With failing sales, they struggled to repay their debts, and lenders were becoming more cautious. No one wanted to extend more credit to a company that appeared to be on the verge of collapse. The company found itself trapped. Without more credit, it couldn't invest in improvements or marketing to bring customers back. Without customers, they couldn't generate the revenue needed to repay the growing debt.
Hurry into Circuit City's Veterans Day weekend sale for unbeatable low prices and 0% interest for 6 months on great top brands.
While other retailers were managing to stay afloat, Circuit City's troubles were mounting. Competitors like Best Buy and Amazon have diversified their business models and embraced the shift to online shopping. These competitors were better equipped to weather the storm. Circuit City, however, was already in decline when the crisis hit, making it nearly impossible for them to survive the downturn. The 2008 financial crisis hit Circuit City when it was at its weakest. With fewer customers, mounting debts, and an economy in turmoil, the company was pushed even closer to the edge. By November of that year, they took a dramatic step. In a dramatic fall from grace, Circuit City's collapse was a result of years of missteps and missed opportunities. Here's what happened next.
Circuit City has sold its last flat-screen TV. For the last month and a half, a group of liquidators has conducted going-out-of-business sales.
In 2008, Circuit City had no choice but to file for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. The company hoped that reorganizing its debts and finding new investors would turn things around, but things didn't go as planned. While they were given a bit of breathing room, it certainly wasn't enough. During the bankruptcy process, Circuit City tried to continue running its stores while searching for a buyer who could save the business. Unfortunately, no one was interested.
Well, Circuit City is the latest national retailer to announce its downsizing. The corporate retailer says the reason is simple. Customers just aren't buying what they used to.
With debts that only increased, declining sales, and stiff competition, Circuit City just didn't seem like a worthwhile investment. By early 2009, the company had run out of options. In January of 2009, Circuit City announced that it would close all remaining stores and began liquidating its assets. This was the final blow. The company shut down 567 stores across the U.S., resulting in the loss of over 30,000 jobs. It was a heartbreaking end for employees who had been with the company for years, as well as for customers who had relied on Circuit City for their electronics needs. As part of the liquidation process, Circuit City sold off everything: inventory, store fixtures, and more. Liquidation sales were advertised to attract buyers, but this was merely a sad conclusion to what had once been a thriving business. By March of 2009, all of Circuit City stores were officially closed, and the brand was wiped from the retail world.
Tomorrow, this Circuit City location is expected to officially close its doors, but this isn't the only store struggling to stay afloat in today's hurting economy.
Circuit City's bankruptcy and liquidation were the result of years of poor decisions and a lack of adaptability. While the financial crisis accelerated their downfall, the company's internal failures had already set the stage for this dramatic end. From missed opportunities to mismanagement, Circuit City serves as a cautionary tale for businesses everywhere. While the doors closed and the brand seemed destined for retail history, the story of Circuit City didn't quite end there. In the years following its collapse, new efforts emerged to breathe life back into the iconic brand. The story doesn't end here. In a brave move, attempts were made to resurrect Circuit City even after its collapse.
Electronic retailer Circuit City has announced it's unplugging more than 150 stores. In Maryland alone, 3 locations are going out of business.
Even though Circuit City stores closed in 2009, the brand still has some life left, at least in the name. In 2016, a bunch of entrepreneurs made an attempt to revive Circuit City as an online-only retailer. The goal was to capitalize on the nostalgia people had for the brand and enter the booming e-commerce space. But this revival faced challenges right from the start. E-commerce giants like Amazon were already dominating the market, and consumers had developed brand loyalty to those online retailers. While Circuit City tried to carve out a space, it struggled to compete with the convenience, fast shipping, and established presence of its competitors.
On Wednesday, this store will temporarily reopen to sell off and liquidate what it has left. Live in Baltimore County, Mindy Mizell, WBAL TV 11 News.
The 2016 version of Circuit City offered a variety of electronics through its online platform. However, it lacked the innovation and user-friendly experience that customers had come to expect from modern online shopping sites. Circuit City's website was clunky and outdated compared to Amazon and Best Buy. The competition was fierce, and Circuit City couldn't capture the attention of the market the way it had hoped. In addition to the online venture, there were also talks about reopening small, curated physical stores. These stores were intended to provide a more personalized shopping experience. But in an era where consumers were increasingly turning to online shopping, this strategy didn't take off either. The attempts to revive Circuit City didn't succeed, and the brand once again faded into the background. While the name still holds nostalgic value for some, it's clear that the retail has moved on without Circuit City. The Circuit City story is a powerful reminder that even the most successful companies can fall if they don't evolve with the times.
Circuit City is done. The second largest electronics chain in the world is going out of business. It'll close all 567 U.S. stores by March, including 2 in Spokane.
As we wrap up the story of Circuit City, we're left with valuable lessons about business, leadership, and the need for innovation. The retail world is always changing, and companies that can't adapt are doomed to be left behind.